Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome to the Mental Wellness Wake Up Show, a weekly podcast where growth minded, creative people come to learn best practices from both spirituality and psychology that create lasting well being. I am your host, mental wellness expert, improvised acting teacher, therapist, and coach, Dawn McMillan. Let's get to it. Oh, you beautiful humans. I'm so glad to be hanging out with you right now. How the heck are ya? You look good. How do you feel? How do you feel? See, here's the thing about you. You're extraordinary. And I think sometimes you forget that. And I just wanted to remind you, all the things that you've been through, all the things that you are going through, all the things you've accomplished, pretty impressive. So yeah, I just wanted to remind you of that. I also want to thank you for showing up and for sharing the podcast. Y'all, we're still growing. We are still growing. Our community is getting bigger. We're climbing the charts in India. Hey, what's up, India? And I'm just really honored and privileged to be a part of a community that is interested in making the world a better place by having a better life. And you deserve a better life because you're awesome. You're really awesome. So what I want to talk about today is friendship in a sort of oblique way. One thing that's coming up a lot in my world, socially and professionally, is a weird kind of loneliness. It's not that people have no one in their lives. These are people who have friends, have family, or even have partners, but they just feel that something missing, that deep connection, or that remember back in your early 20s, or maybe you're still in your early 20s, where you went around in a pack, right? Like you had a friend group, you had a squad, and you did everything together. I think people are missing that. I think COVID was really a disturbance in that group mind because we all had to limit who we were spending time with. And I think just, I don't want to blame social media for everything, but the way that we share with people is more virtual instead of in person. So it's all adding up to a weird sort of existential loneliness for people. One thing that I see a lot of is that people see their friends one at a time, right? That their friends are not necessarily friends with each other. And that can produce a weird sort of loneliness. There's only so many coffee dates you can go on. And so you have to pick and choose. Or you're isolated with your partner. This happens a lot in American culture. We prioritize our romantic relationships above all other relationships. And so once we're partnered, we start turning to that one person for everything. And then you look up and you're like, oh, if that relationship isn't going well or that person isn't available, I don't know what to do with myself, or whatever your particular story is. So I want to address one of the reasons I think we're not connecting as well. And it really has to do with some basic listening skills. For real, though, basic listening skills. One thing I've noticed an uptick in is what I call blank face listening. And I think it's in part, a lot of people are neurodivergent and they don't necessarily have that same mirror neuron response that other people, more neurotypical people, may have acquired. I think some of it is all the masking we've been doing for a while. And I think some of it is trauma response. I think we're kind of terrified of each other all the time. And so that can trigger a freeze response, right? Where we're nervous about what people are saying to us. We've got our social anxiety. So we're looking at them and we're not listening to them. We're in our heads with this blank face trying to figure out whether the thing we're about to say is going to be stupid. So whatever the reason is, we're missing out on some very basic, very simple listening skills that might help us connect more deeply with one another, I'm making up words now, one another, and have more rewarding interactions. So we're just going to cover some basics. All right, basic number one in good listening is reciprocity. Having a conversation with someone is not being interviewed. It's not being interviewed. So a lot of times one person will have learned that the way to engage someone is to ask them questions. And so they will. And then the other person will answer them. And it will go something like this. Oh, hey, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? And the other person will be like, yeah, I watched a movie. Then the other person will say, person A, well, what movie did you watch? I watched the new Marvel film. Did you like it? Yes, I did. You're not being interviewed. So we need a little reciprocity. So this comes from improv. You want to yes and. So what you want to do is someone asks you a question, consider all questions outside of a business context, not as a request for information, but as a bid for connection. Consider it a bid for connection. So if someone says, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? They're not seeking information. They're trying to connect with you. So you answer the question. Yes, I went to a Marvel movie. Then you add a little something else for them to respond to, like, and I really enjoyed it. That's something for them to follow up on, right? So you tell them what they did, you give them some emotional contact, and then you return and you say something like, do you like movies? Or have you seen this movie? Or what do you think of Marvel? You respond with a question. So here's how that goes. Hey, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? Oh, yeah, I went to go see the latest Marvel movie. I thought it was not quite as good as the first one, but I really enjoyed it. Do you like Marvel movies? Oh, no. I'm not necessarily a Marvel movie fan. I prefer to watch TV series. Ooh, what's a series that you're watching? See? So you keep the conversation going. So if someone asks you a question, it's not in a social context, it's not a bid for information, it is an opportunity to connect. And you always want to add on to the answer with a little extra information, right? That's when you add that little extra information, you're indicating that you're engaged. If you want to shut down the conversation, only answer the question. This is how you shut down a conversation. Hey, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is, I don't want to talk to you. How was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? Oh yeah, I did some gardening. I'm really excited about my crocuses coming in this week. I really love gardening. Do you have any hobbies? That's a conversation. Okay. Am I beating this into the ground? Respond, add emotional content, reflect back a question. And if you're stuck, right? If you have social anxiety, I don't know what to say. What about you? Is always a good one. Someone asks you, hey, do you have any hobbies? You're like, not really. What about you? And then they say, I'm really into making model airplanes. And then you can go, model airplanes, tell me everything. So here are your go-tos if you get stuck. How about you? Are you writing this down? Reflect back the exact question they asked you. What did you have anything fun this weekend? It sounds mechanical, but it shows you're trying. So how about you? Reflect back whatever question you were just asked. And 3 is, ooh, interesting. Can you tell me more about that? Ooh, interesting. Can you tell me more about that? So I walk up to you and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got this new punch hook set from Spain and it is beautiful. Now you may or may not care about punch hook. You may not even know what I just said. But because you recognize that I've just made a bid for connection, and oh, by the way, this is true, beautiful embroidery fabric, embroidery colors. But I digress. You have no idea what I'm talking about, and you may not care, but you recognize that this is a bid for connection, and I just want to connect with you. And so you're like, ooh, interesting. Tell me more about that. And then I go off to the races. And then I realize I've been talking about myself too much. And I reflect back to you. So, is there anything that you've been excited about lately? You following? Okay, good. All right, you're good. You're good. You got that. So, you want to add emotional content because that is a way of encouraging intimacy, and you want to flip a question back. All right, if you are the questioner, give the person time to answer before you ask another question. I had someone that I used to work with who would just ask questions and then answer them and then ask another question. Do you like football? Oh, yeah, I bet you're a Raiders fan. Oh, what about other sports? Do you like other sports? I haven't said a word in this. So ask a question and wait for the answer. Ask a question and wait for the answer. Things to avoid. Things to avoid. Other people's bodies. Just don't. Just don't. Just don't. Wow, your boobs look really big in that shirt. What have you been doing? Just avoid other people's bodies. And I know we still live in a culture with, wow, you look like you've been working out, or have you lost weight, are considered compliments. I'm just going to invite you to avoid other people's bodies. You are allowed to say, wow, you look really nice. I like what you're wearing today. Avoid the emphasis on the today, right? Because then that implies that you didn't like what they were wearing yesterday. So, there's traps. Just avoid other people's bodies. Okay. This is getting long, so I want to move on. So don't interrogate people. Ask a question, wait for a response. If you would like the conversation to continue, you yes and. You add a little something, something on to your answer so they have more information, and then you flip it back. Here's my biggest and best piece of advice. Y'all know about the not interrupting, right? So we're not even going to go into that. Like, let people finish their sentences. The fine print is if they are from a culture where people overlap, like I spent my formative years in Brooklyn, and if you don't interrupt, you are never getting a word in edgewise, right? I think big Italian families maybe do this too, right? Where like everyone just talks, and that's normal. I think in some South Asian cultures, people are this pace is quick. In a lot of Native American cultures, a lot of indigenous populations have a slower pace, or even some East Asian cultures. But there's different family cultures, different regional cultures. Like in the South, you take your time. So just keeping that in mind, try not to interrupt people when they're speaking and try not to finish their sentences for them. You feel when you're the one doing it, like you're showing that you're following and that you understand what they're saying. But it's really invalidating when you get it wrong. So if you see someone and they're like, oh yeah, I went to Paris and I was really excited about, and you go, the architecture? And they were like, no, the food, right? It feels a little disruptive. So let people finish their sentences. If you or they are if you're from different pace cultures, match the other person. So if you're from a slow culture and they're fast, jump in or you'll never get a word in edgewise. If you're from a fast culture and they're slow, take a breath, count to 2 or 3 before you jump in to make sure they're finished talking. But here's the thing. Your face. You have to show people that you are listening. So I want you to practice when you're listening to someone to have just a tiny little slight smile on your face. Just a little slight upturn of the lips. Slight upturn of the lips while you're listening. And nod periodically. The magic nod is 3 times, just 1, 2, 3, when someone's talking, and that encourages them to keep going. So slight little smile on your lips, nod to show that you're following along and you want to encourage them to keep talking. Staring at someone with a blank, expressionless face means they have no idea whether you are listening, whether you are interested in what they're having to say. Like, it makes people feel uncomfortable, or it can make people feel uncomfortable. It's kind of things that they do to you in job interviews. Like, I'm giving you a poker face, so you have no idea what you're doing or how you are doing. Don't poker face people. So for my neurodivergent friends, I know can be a little bit feel fake, or it can feel like masking. I'm not asking you to mask. I'm asking you to actively listen. So corners of your lips go up ever so slightly. You make eye contact, not staring, not staring. And the way you don't stare at someone is you look at them in the eye, you have your corners of your mouth slightly turned up, you nod like 3 times, and you look at them while they're talking. When you're talking, glance away a little bit once in a while so you're not eyeballing them so intently. Okay, so you want to show it with your face that you're listening, and you want to point your heart towards the person who's talking. So you kind of want to square your shoulders toward them, but not necessarily your whole body, especially for women, people in general. When you point your crotch at someone, when you point your groin at someone, that can be perceived as being sexual. So a lot of body language things will say, don't cross your legs. I say, do cross your legs. Do cross your legs or your ankles. Or you want to have the lower part of your body kind of angled away from the person you're talking to, just ever so slightly. And then you want to square off with your chest, with your heart. So point your heart at the person that you're talking to. And unless you're trying to be a little bit evocative or erotic, just, knees slightly to one side or legs slightly crossed. And you want to be sitting upright or slightly lean forward. If you lean back with your legs open, that's a sexual invitation or a power move. All right, so you're sitting up straight. Your heart is pointed towards the person that you're speaking to. Your legs are lightly crossed or just slightly turned to one side. You don't want to twist and hurt yourself. Lips are up a little bit. And you just do a little nod periodically while the other person's talking so they know that you're paying attention. Okay? Keep your arms uncrossed. And if you must cross your arms, say, I'm cold, but not hostile. And people will laugh, but it's good to let them know. All right, this is a little long, but important because these are simple little ways that you can just make nicer connections with people. And we all want nicer connections with people. All right. Thank you for listening. Especially you. You know why? Because you have other things that you could be doing. You know what I mean? Your time is valuable. Your time is valuable. And you just spent it hanging out with me. So I'm super honored. Super, super honored. And in case you've forgotten, you, beautiful being that you are whole, perfect, and complete right now. And right now and forever after, you are worthy and deserving of being treated with kindness and love and respect and honoring and cherishing and good humor, especially from yourself. And I am making it so. Hear me now, believe me now, and later. I am making it so that this day, something lovely is going to show up for you. So keep your eyes open for it. Something lovely is going to occur in your world today. So make sure you notice. All right. Until next time.